Hey YouTube, my name is Matt. Today I'm back again with another hot tip. This time a tip for you lead guitar players. We're going to take a close look at something called chord inversions, or you might know them as triads. Just what are they? Just how can they help your lead guitar playing? How can they spice things up for you in your lead playing? So grab your guitar, that's what's coming up next. So what are we talking about? Chord inversions, what are they? Well, before we get into that, if you consider yourself a lead guitar player, you should at least know your basic chords. What is a chord made up out of? Well, if we take the G chord, that's simply a combination of notes out of the G major scale. And if we break it down, we know we've got the root, the G, followed by the third, followed by the fifth note in the scale, followed by the G again, just an octave higher, then another fifth up an octave, and then finally the octave again, up a third time. But all notes out of the same scale. Same with the E chord. We've got a root, a fifth, a third, an octave, another fifth, all notes out of the scale. Same with an A. Same with a D. We've got a root, a fifth, a third, an octave, etc., etc. But what's common across all these is that they all start on the root note. An A chord starts on an A. A G chord starts on a G. An E chord starts on an E. And there's nothing wrong with this, okay? If you are the sole guitar player in a band that has a piano and a bass, and you're the only guitar player, for example, play like this. There's nothing wrong with it. Perhaps you're not the only guitar player. Perhaps you're competing against an acoustic, maybe even two acoustics. Perhaps you've got another guitar player, another rhythm guitar player. Okay, but what are they? Strictly speaking, all these chords we've talked about, they all start on the root note. An inversion of that, we simply take the same chord, but we don't start on the root note, we start on a different note. So for a G inversion, maybe I won't start with the G. Maybe I'll bring it up here, and I will start with the D note. Okay, the D note being the fifth in the G scale, the G chord. And then I'll hit the G, and then a B. It's the same G, but played up a lot higher, and the notes are in different order, so we get a different sound. So if you've got one guitar player down here, maybe you can be up here. So in effect, all we're doing is playing the same notes in the chord, but in a different order. Now to achieve this, that means we have to play them on different parts of the neck than you're used to. No, not at all. That's the best part of this. You don't have to relearn any chords. You don't have to learn anything other than where they fit on the neck. We're going to focus on three different chord shapes. Three different chord shapes that'll let you play any chord up and down the neck. We're going to start with a D chord shape. You're all familiar with a D chord. But if we take that root note out, that fourth string, and we just play these three, we've still got the same D chord, just without the root. In fact, that in itself is an inversion. But if we take that same shape and slide it up a couple of half steps, now we've got an E inversion. Slide it up another step, another half step, sorry. Now we've got an F inversion. Another couple of half steps, a G. So that is an incredibly fundamental one to learn. That D shape can be moved anywhere up and down the neck, and you've got an inversion of a major chord. Another beauty of this chord shape, the D inversion shape, is the sus note, which you'll be familiar from playing D sus. Alright, just hammering that pinky on. If you're playing a song and it has like a simple G-C progression, okay, and you're playing the inversion of the G up here, You don't need to go all the way up to that C inversion. When you hit that C note, you can just hammer that sus note on, and there's your C. The second chord shape I want to look at is the A chord shape. So we're familiar with how to play an A? If you're not, something like that. Okay, it's got the A note in it as the first note. If we take that A note out, we've got an inversion of the A basically. And we can slide that all over the neck. There's a C. There's an E. All the way up to here where we've got a G. That chord shape will come in really handy, but you should be familiar with this already from playing bar chords like this. It's the same thing, we're just taking the root note out. And it might be able to help spice up your lead playing by not worrying about that root note all the time. You see, as lead players, we don't need to cover the entire frequency range. We don't need to always hit the bass notes. We don't need to always hit, we don't need to be chugging away on the rhythm all the time. As lead players, sometimes just one or two notes is all we need. With a little bit of overdrive, maybe some delay, that's plenty to cut through the mix. Quite often you'll find me just playing on 2 strings. And it's plenty, like I say, with a bit of effect on it, maybe some overdrive, reverb, whatever, that's plenty. And the last shape I want to look at today is the E chord shape. Now if we look at the E chord itself, we don't want any of this. We just want the bottom 3 notes. So my first finger is in the 1st fret on the 3rd string, and then the open B and E. And we can slide that up, but it doesn't work because we've got those open strings. So we need to bar the first 2 strings. And that right there is a G. A G inversion. So there's an E to an A inversion, to a B inversion, to another D up here. Now if you're clever and you're focusing closely, if you take your standard F-shaped chord and shift it up here, and you bar all across all 6 strings, you'll note all I'm doing is playing the bottom 3 notes of that same. I don't need all those notes. We just need these ones. Yes, that is a valid point. All these shapes we've looked at today are for major chords. If you are presented with needing to play a minor chord or wanting to play a minor chord in up higher on the neck or something like that, there are 2 main shapes. They're my 2 go-to shapes for this. And one of them is very similar to the A shape, which is these 3 notes, but up all over the neck. What I simply do is take that same shape and just move it down so I'm on the bottom 3 string, the G, B, and E strings. And depending on which fret I'm in relative to the top of the E string, that is what chord I'm playing. So if I'm in the 5th fret, which is the A, if I bar the bottom 3, I'm in A minor. If I'm in the 7th fret, which is the B, if I bar the bottom 3, B minor. G minor if I'm in the 3rd, C sharp minor if I'm in the 9th. The other shape is kind of like a F major 7 triad shape, but not here on the D, G, and B strings. I need to shift it down. And now instead of being relative to the E string, it's relative to the note on the A string. So, and the first finger. So if my first finger in the G, B, and E, if my first finger is in the 5th fret, relative to the A, that is a D minor. And if you're familiar with how to play minor chords with bar, in bar shape like this, it's the same thing. We're playing the exact same notes. We're just not playing these top two. So there's our E minor, C minor, D minor, F sharp minor. So what do you do from here? Well, I suggest you spend some time going over each chord, like at each note. So a D. Where else could you play that D? Well, there's a D inversion up here. There's a D note here. What if you want a D minor? Well, we know D minor is here. It's also here. Do it again for G. There's a G. Where's the G inversion? Up here. Where else could it be? Here. G minor. Where else is that G minor? Up here. Do that all up and down the neck until you can get to them quickly without issue, without searching for them. Find them quickly, spend some time practicing it. Okay, that's it for today's hot tip. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this, please click the subscribe button below. It's a little red one just over here somewhere. Stay tuned for another hot tip coming your way very soon.